Hi there, my name is Enda Scahill. I'm a banjo player and teacher from County Galway, and I'm very happy to be talking to you here on Your Roots Are Showing, and particularly as we explore different methods of online music education. Before I talk about teaching online, I need to give a little bit of background of how I ended up doing what I'm doing now. Way back in 2009, I started Wee Banjo 3 in my kitchen with Martin and David Howley, having no idea the musical journey and the business journey that we were about to embark upon. We had no idea that it was going to grow into a huge business and into a very, very successful band. We started it for the crack. We loved banjo music and we wanted to explore all of the different sounds that we could achieve with 3 banjos. What we discovered is that we ran out of ideas quite quickly. We also discovered that people loved the banjo. And so for the first number of years, every single concert that we played in Ireland was sold out. People would come up afterwards and go, "We just love the banjo." The band becoming a career was almost an accidental adventure. In 2012, we travelled to Milwaukee Irish Festival, which I had played in 2003, and I knew it was a really big deal. So bringing a 4th member into the band on the fiddle to bulk up the sound, because we were terrified that turning up with 3 banjos and 45 minutes of music, we mightn't have enough to carry the show. As it turned out, we were the hit of the festival, and suddenly we were propelled into a music world that we had no skills for and had no real experience of. Roll on 14 years and Wee Banjo 3 were one of the biggest Irish acts to ever come out of Ireland. We played to over 500,000 people every year, and it turned into this huge business. Martin and I co-managed the band probably for the first 10 or 11 years, and we had to learn on the fly and often running to catch up a whole range of business, accounting, entrepreneurial, management, routing, logistical skills that we didn't have when we started, but by the time we finished, we had become absolute experts in our field. Wee Banjo 3 was a very well-oiled machine and was headed for great stardom when the pandemic came along, and we ended up at home for quite a number of years, like so many musicians worldwide. Prior to this, I had no knowledge whatsoever of sound engineering, video recording, video editing, or anything of the sort, but at home and trying to maintain a presence online, I started a podcast. And as part of that, I had to learn how to record myself and others, mix audio, and make everything look well. I have 4 green screens, which I did promise that I was going to ritually burn once the pandemic ended, but then I thought about the environment, and so they're in the attic. Anybody is welcome to them. It turns out that while green screen technology is fantastic, it doesn't actually recognize gray hair, and I found that half my head was missing in a lot of videos. I have self-published 2 instructional books for Irish tenor banjo technique. My first book was the first to lay out a pedagogical method for tenor banjo playing. It hadn't been done before. My second book explored all of the nuances and expert techniques required to make banjo playing more rhythmical and sympathetic to the overall canon of Irish music. Initially, both books came with a CD and now with MP3 download cards, but during COVID, I decided to digitize both books. I recorded videos for all of the music which had originally been available as a CD or an MP3, but I needed somewhere to host it. And I came across a website called SoundSlice, and it is without a doubt the very best teaching tool on the internet. It's used by Berklee College of Music, and it has a wide range of tools for teachers and for students. Music can be notated in stave, in tab, which is particular in the United States for banjo, mandolin, and guitar. Also uses ABC notation, which is predominantly used in Ireland. And of course, because it's video and audio for oral or ear learners, it's a very useful tool. You can slow it down, speed it up. You can loop a number of bars if there's a difficult passage. You can zoom in, zoom out. And the way that I work is I have 3 cameras, so that there's close-ups of my right hand and my left hand. So as you're learning a tune, you can zoom right in and see exactly what's happening with the picking technique or with the left hand fingering, and you have full access to all of the notation. I detail everything from pull-offs, slides, hammer-ons, all of the triplets is all carefully notated and transcribed by me. Providing my tutorial books as ebooks with video notation proved massively successful. And I did notice that an enormous amount of the people that had previously bought my hard copy books also bought the ebook for access to the video. Combined, my 2 books have sold over 10,000 hard copies and another few thousand as digital e-courses. In October 2021, because of demand, I ran a series of weekend workshops online. Zoom was fairly new still and hadn't really been optimized for music, definitely not the way that it is now. It's an excellent tool for online teaching. Back then it wasn't. And so what I did is I pre-recorded all of my lessons, instructional and technique, in front of a green screen. And then we watched it together as a group. And afterwards we had an open discussion, Q&A demonstration. It was very, very popular. Everybody that came to these workshops wanted more. They wanted more instruction, and they loved the format of being able to watch close-up techniques with left and right hands. And so in early 2022, I launched Enda Scahill Banjo on Patreon. My initial offering was 1 tune a month, where I would play a very simple melody and then add a version that had a lot of ornamentation. Now, as time developed, and listening to the feedback from the students who were using the website, I started to create more and more lessons for each tune. Now I'll take 1 tune and make 10, maybe 12 video lessons. So we begin with the absolute basic melody, suitable for beginners. I talk about the essential techniques of picking, left hand fingering, and then gradually add in simple ornamentation, talk about more complicated ornamentation. We talk about variation, adding double stops, chords, harmony. Every tune usually has some little quirky technique issue, if it's a high B that needs to be slid up to, or some awkward picking technique. And I use this as an opportunity to delve into those techniques. The student at home gets an immense amount of information. 10 videos for 1 tune, 3 camera angles. They can zoom right in and see exactly what my right hand is doing, or my left hand. With Sound Slice, they can slow the complicated passages right down and pick and see every individual note being played. It's fully immersive, and it is in the most minute detail. The experience for somebody using these videos, I couldn't probably give that in one-to-one lessons because it would take up so much time. I do that 2, maybe 3 times a month if I do a mandolin tutorial. And the feedback has been absolutely stellar. I have almost 500 patrons right now. For $10 a month, you're getting 2 tunes. It's insane value, and it shows in a lot of ways the value that's put on music in the digital space, and it's highly undervalued. If you were to come to me for one-to-one lessons and get the amount of information and detail that I teach in 1 tune alone, that would probably cost you €200 in lessons. And you get this for $10 a month. So there is definitely an issue with how music and music lessons are valued online, but we do live in a post-Napster, Netflix, Spotify world where artists' works are essentially devalued. But it also gives the opportunity to appeal to a much, much wider audience. And so with me closing in on 500 patrons a month, it does make financial sense. There are various tiers and levels of access that you can get via Patreon. On the top tier, I do video feedback and exchange. People send me videos on the Marco Polo app, or we use Google Drive, or sometimes YouTube. I watch the videos, analyze their technique, and send them back a video with detailed feedback. With a lot of these folks, we're building every month, and you can see progress that's being made in real time. Others just need the accountability of saying, yeah, I'm still practicing, and here's a video, and I'm working away on the first part of this reel. And of course, like every human being, we all need a pat on the back to say, you're doing great, keep it up, beautiful music. Once a month, I have a group Zoom, and it's either me answering questions about technique, strings, banjo gear, there's always an awful lot to talk about, or I have a special guest join us. I've had all of the greats of Irish banjo, Jerry O'Connor, Seamus Egan, Damien O'Kane. These always prove to be hugely entertaining for everybody. For some folks, it's an opportunity to meet their heroes online, talk to them, ask them questions about their playing, or even just say, it's amazing to meet you online. On another access level, I have a Discord server, which is essentially a giant WhatsApp group, except it's broken into topics. And this is a really good way to ask me direct questions. And so somebody is working on the most recent tune, maybe they're stuck on bar 2 or they don't understand what this slide or hammer-on is, and they'll literally just ask me directly in Discord, and I can respond to them the very same day. Sometimes I'll send a little video to say this is what it's supposed to be, or often it can be that I made a mistake in the notation and a note is in the wrong place, and people let me know. There's some really great knowledge on that Discord server. There's a number of luthiers around the world who know way more about the makeup of the banjo than I do. I often get the names of the parts wrong. I'm good at playing it, but I'm not great at understanding what's under the hood. So there's a vast array of knowledge on Discord. That has been one of the big surprises for me in Patreon, of how active, engaging, welcoming, and friendly the Discord server has been. When people ask me what I do now, it's not enough to say that I teach online, because that doesn't cover it at all. That gives the suggestion that I do a load of Zoom lessons, one-to-one, playing the banjo, sending on some notes. I don't fully know how to describe it. Am I a content creator? I'm managing this vast community of banjo players all around the world, as far away as Australia, Japan, all the coasts of America, Ireland, the UK, and across Europe. I've always been an overachiever, and I know that I'm providing the most immersive banjo learning experience possible. One aspect that came as a complete shock to me was the amount of time that it takes to create videos. And I have a huge respect now for YouTubers who produce weekly or even daily videos. Every 15 or 20 minute video that I create on YouTube takes me probably 20 hours from when I press record on the camera to the final publication of the course on SoundSlice and then available through Patreon. The video edits is a huge learning curve, and I learned everything from YouTube. I'd literally run into a problem and then go to YouTube and figure out how to fix it. Sound engineering for me was complete hit and miss, and thankfully Steve Martin Banjo prize allowed me to buy some very good microphones, and that made life a lot easier. Now I've become very capable at lighting, sound engineering, video recording, editing, publication, the whole works. One of the most important things that happened is my son came to me about 6 months ago and he said, "Dad, I watched a couple of your YouTube videos and they're very boring." And he sat me down to watch Mr. Beast. And if you haven't seen Mr. Beast or know who he is, you're probably of a certain age, like myself. But he's one of the most successful YouTubers and essentially creates exquisitely good mini documentaries that take about 20 minutes to watch. But what my son was talking about was the quick edits, the constant scene shifts that happen, particularly in the first 3 or 4 minutes of a video. I thought it was enough that I would just sit in front of a camera and go, "Hello, let's learn a tune," and then play for 20 minutes. And he's like, "No, Dad, you got to capture their attention." Now, it absolutely works, and I can see it in the retention of viewers on YouTube, but it makes my job way more difficult because now a 20-minute video that I output takes me 15 hours to edit. All of the jump cuts, multiple camera angles, all of the special effects. It's a very satisfying process. It definitely satisfied the creative urge in me to make something that's really good and really interesting and fun. The workload is very intense. So what's next? The YouTubers that I aspire to be like, they're constantly improving their product. And so I'm trying to do the same. More entertainment, more narrative, more engagement. The one thing I've always been terrible at is planning. So probably like I've done for this video, I sit here and I start talking. So maybe if I had planned it out in advance, it wouldn't take me as long to edit out all the ums, ahs, and other words. But the ability to teach and engage with almost 500 banjo players around the world, I couldn't possibly do it on a one-to-one basis or even in groups because it's just too many people, and particularly because of the global nature of what I'm able to achieve online. What is next for me is to build out the very best beginner banjo course available. I've watched everything that's out there right now, and I'm going to improve upon it exponentially. It's definitely worth reiterating that the experience for somebody learning banjo, the online world is so immersive and so detailed. If you came to me for a banjo lesson, it would take me hours, one-to-one, scribbling on a piece of paper, notation, variations. And while there is definitely a benefit to being in the room with somebody, and particularly I think from the encouragement factor, but the detailed learning that's available online cannot be beaten.